Right, we have got an intro video for Tract 11 at the Tracts at White River. We will definitely try to keep this short, but there is a lot to say about this tract, so I don't know how short we'll be able to keep it, but we'll jump in here and see what we can do. We've got Tract 11 highlighted with, I guess, kind of a light blue color. You can see it to the right of center of the video, and then on the left you can actually see the White River. So all of these tracts are within about a mile of the White River, but a few of them are within just basically a few hundred feet, and Tract 11 is one of the closest tracts to the actual river, as you can see here. Okay, in a moment we'll turn off that shading because it's going to make it hard to see the actual ground cover on Tract 11, but before we do that, let's zoom out and then we can make use of that shading. Make it a lot easier to pick out the tract. So we're using the interactive map. You'll find a very similar map within the listing page for the property, which is likely where you are right now, actually. It might not specifically have Tract 11 highlighted, but it'll show all the different tracks, and you can zoom in and out and all that good stuff. You can change the base map. We're looking at just a standard aerial map right now, but you can change it to a topo map. They have different aerial maps which come from different sources. Usually we use Google Map because it's often the most clear, and we'll flip over to that in a minute. Google Map in this case happens to be a wintertime aerial, so I don't know if it's as useful as the summertime aerial would be. We've got one of the small problems with the interactive map is when you zoom in and out, it doesn't know how to treat the text, so it ends up jumbling it all together. So what we're going to do is we're going to just turn that text off completely for a few moments here. Okay, and that's going to leave a bunch of lines and a bunch of arrows, but that's fine. That's really what we want to see here. And we might actually turn the water feature layer off as well. We know where the river is. There is a small little creek bed. It goes over the southeast corner of Tract 11. It's certainly not a year-round creek, but it might be something that would be cool to explore and see if you can find some neat rock features or whatnot. Okay, bear with us here for just a moment. Where did that go? Here we go. Ooh. And it's there we go. Okay. So on this map, the green line that you see is Lock 3 Road. That's a county road. That'll be you'll take paved roads all the way until you get to Lock 3 Road, and then Lock 3 is a gravel road. Lock 3 Road comes in to the northeast corner of the development, but the last house is going to be right about here, just before you get to the development, and the county really only maintains Lock 3 Road up to that last house. They don't really see the value in maintaining the road where it's not used currently, or it's used only by a couple of hunters in the area. So once you get past this house, it's basically a minimum maintenance gravel road. You absolutely want a four-wheel drive truck or SUV for any of these tracts. The extra traction is great, and the extra clearance that you get along with the four-wheel drive might be necessary if you get some bad spots in the road. So to get to this tract, to get to Tract 11, you would take Lock 3 Road. And by the way, that's a funny name for a road, and it took us a while to figure it out, but it's named because if you look at this dam in the river up here, in the White River, that is a dam, but also on the side is an actual lock, as in canals, the Panama Canal, where they have to raise and lower the boats inside locks. That's what that is. So when they built this dam in the early 1900s, they still had to be able to get the ships and the paddle wheels and the ferries and all that stuff up and down river, but they built the dams for power generation and possibly flood control, but definitely power generation. So they wanted the dams, but the locks enabled the boats to actually still traverse the river all the way down to and through Batesville and beyond, or going upriver. So there are 3 locks that were built, dams and locks. I believe there's one right in Batesville, which is about 10 miles southeast. There's one roughly halfway toward where we are, and then there's this one right here. So that's Lock 3. So hence the name Lock 3 Road. And that county road actually goes up and doesn't go to the lock or the dam, but there is a trail that comes off of that and goes up to the lock or the dam. So that's what's going on with that. So anyway, to get to the property, you would take Lock 3 Road, come on in here. You'll get to, if you see this cleared line right here on the way to the property, that's the overhead power line that delivers the power from the hydroelectric dam to the city of Batesville. So that's not a residential line that we could tap into. The power, I'm sure, would be, the closest power would be this last house just before you get to the tracks, I would guess. But that overhead line is a really good landmark, because as soon as you find yourself within an area with basically cleared of the timber, because it is a large power line, then you'll know right where you are. And as you go straight, if you take a right at the Y, you will go a short distance and you will go to the White River. There's a really nice access point. These are actually, that's not a road, that straight line, those are train tracks. Very, very low use train tracks. There's really just one train, we've been told, that uses those. Goes up to an area a few miles north of here where they mine for sand, a special type of sand. And so it's we've never seen a train out there. We keep hoping we will, but we just haven't. But there is a nice access, essentially, I mean, people call it a boat launch, where you can drive under or back your small boat under the train trestle, and there's a concrete ramp that goes out into the water. So it was originally a ferry launch. The ferry would go back and forth across that section of the river before the train tracks were there. So our understanding is when the train tracks were built, they could not cut off that ferry access, so they had to do the short tunnel going under the train tracks, which is pretty cool. There's very few people that have that kind of access, especially on the east side of the White River, because those train tracks really cut off that access otherwise, so it's nice to have it there. Okay, so again, the cleared area, the power line easement, you go beyond that. If you take a right, you'll take the short road that goes to the river itself. If you take a left, you're actually staying on the county road, and you're going to start going up a hill. And it's not what we would call a steep hill, but it's a fairly long hill. So you're just kind of gradually going up and up. And once the road starts to curve, then you're at the top of that hill. And if you drive a little further and look to the left, you'll see a gate. And that gate is going to be the start of the easement road system that takes you into tracks, 9 through 36, I believe. Let's go ahead and turn the labels back on. And here we go. Okay, that should pop up in just a moment here. There we go, yep, track 9. So tracks 1 through 6, you wouldn't necessarily need to go through that gate. In fact, you wouldn't need to go through that gate. But it shows that you come to track 9 first, and you do, but also tracks 7 and 8 you would have to access through that same gate, as you can see here, because they don't actually have frontage on the Lock 3 road on the county road. So in this case, since we're looking at tract 11, that's a really easy one. We'll go through that gate, and if you get a hold of us, if you're going out there, we can let you know the the status on that gate. If it's going to be locked, we'll get you the instructions to open it up. That's no problem. Go through the gate, go a few hundred yards, and you'll be within the development. You start by crossing the south side of Tract 9. You'll come to a T in the road, and if you go right at that T, then very, very shortly you'll be on Tract 11. So, I mean, as far as these tracks out here, you certainly need a four-wheel drive, but Tract 11 happens to have much better access than the vast majority of these tracts. As you can see, they go back to the east. Whoop, I'm trying to move the map here. Went too far. Program's not cooperating. It's going haywire. Okay. The easement road system continues back to the east for, well, there's a couple miles of easement road at least, but Tract 11 is right up there toward the front, but still quite private, which is nice. It's good to see. The easement road looks like it juts just a little beyond Tract 11, and there might be another future tract there. I'm not sure. Why don't we go ahead and turn that shaded layer off so we can really see Tract 11. By the way, it's about 10 acres, so basically 660 feet by 660 feet. It's going to be square, more or less. Okay, and we will turn off that shading. Oops, nope. Okay. See if we can find it here. And is that it? That's not what we want. Still trying to get used to this. They changed the format just a bit of this. We always call it MapRight because that's what we've called it for the several years we've used it. But recently they kind of rebranded it and changed the name. It's now Land ID. And come on, Land ID. I was thinking that was it right there. Okay, well, shoot. Oh, maybe that'll do something. No, it won't. I think I'm actually drawing a property right now. Okay. Well, I really thought there was an easy way to show that. Let's do here, maybe. Nope. Okay. Try one more thing. And let's do all. Nope, that was not it. Okay, no. Invisibility. Well, I am not sure. I'm just stumped here all of a sudden, and I was just doing this a moment ago, so I apologize for that. Nice, no. Features. Okay, I think I got it. I think I'm almost there. Here. And we'll give that a second. And that did nothing. So how about this one or this one? Oh, that's not what we wanted. Okay, well then that's going to be... What the heck? Oh, here we go. Okay, give that a second. That'll dissolve that shaded area. There we go. Well, we did get there finally. Okay, now it's trying to make me draw. And I just want to move this thing instead. I'm just gonna do this and then escape. Come on. Okay. Whew, finally, so here we are. There's Tract 11. Heavily wooded. Many of the tracks out here are, and this one definitely is. I mean, you can see that just from the aerial. Why don't we zoom in And that aerial's not bad, but if we go to the Google aerial, it will be more clear. And it's going to be a wintertime aerial, which can be good. We get to see the property with no leaves on the trees. It's nice in this instance because if this property had been logged at all in the last several years, we would see obvious signs of that with the wintertime aerial picture. And it's clear looking at this that there hasn't been any recent logging. We generally say that every property's been logged. There's no property with 700-year-old timber in Missouri or in the U.S. that we know of, but there's no signs of any logging in the last several years for sure on this property. If this had been logged even 5 or 6 years ago, then this south-facing slope that's showing up so well, you'd see limbs, and you'd really see stumps that when there are several stumps in the same area, they really pop out because you see these little round dots all together. But this looks really, really good. The creek bed area here you can see, and this is not a topo map, but just because of kind of the change in how you're viewing the timber makes it obvious that you've got a change in topography. Let's go ahead and do a topo map. There we go. Okay. So this is kind of interesting, actually. It's showing us that the property is the highest where the road comes in, and that's pretty common. Usually on any property in the Ozarks or anywhere that's hilly, the roads will be built on the high ends, on the ridges, because if you build a road on the hillside, it's going to wash out all the time. But if you build a road on a flat part, it's going to hold up a lot better. The flat parts in the Ozarks, in the true Ozarks, like where we are here, would be the ridge tops, or the so-called ridge tops. It doesn't feel like a ridge top when you're up there, but when you look at a topo map, it sure looks like one. So the topo map is telling us that the property's the highest, as we said, where the road comes in. You've got what appears to be a wide, flat ridge top here as you take the road through. Basically, if you're not familiar with topo maps, the crash course is that these contour lines are telling you the change in elevation. On this particular map, I believe the elevation change between two contour lines is 20 feet. So the darkened lines don't have any special significance except that every fifth line is a darkened line, and then it's easy to get a visual of 100-foot increments because you're going from dark line to dark line. So in this case, if you follow a contour line around on most maps, and this one included, you'll eventually come to a number, 400, if you can see where the cursor is. So that darkened line is the 400-foot above sea level line. So if we follow that back, we can figure out the high and low elevation on this property. So we know that this darkened line is 400 feet above sea level down at the base of the creek bed, and we'll count backwards. So 380, 360, 340, 320, essentially probably 300 in the bottom of the creek bed at this low end. So the lowest part of the property, the southern part in the creek bed, which should be about 300 feet above sea level, and the highest part going to be this top of the ridge, and that, if we count up from the 400 contour line, 420, 440, 460, 480. So between 480 and about 500 feet above sea level on this high part. So you've actually got a 200-foot elevation change in total from the highest point to the lowest point on this property. This part south of the road, as we can see here, as you go south from the easement road, it starts off gradual, almost flat. As you get further away, see these lines are getting closer, it's getting steeper. As we get right down to the creek bed, according to the map, that's pretty darn steep. That's not a cliff or a bluff, not according to the map, because the lines would basically be blurred together in that case, but that's indicating a good steep drop as you get right down to that gravel creek bed, which is common as you get close to a creek bed, especially in the Ozarks. As we look at the north side of the property, a little different story. So it is sloping down as you move away from the road, but gradual and consistent from what we can see here. So you've got a lot of space between those contour lines. This is likely just not a level piece necessarily on the north side of the road, but based on what we know about topo maps in the Ozarks, if you were to explore this north part, it would more than likely be a deal where there would be flat areas. It would slope down a little bit. There'd be kind of another flat area, just that kind of situation. It's hard for them to portray that on a topo map unless you get into a really, really detailed topo map with, 1 foot elevation contour lines or something like that. But as far as building sites or camping sites, depending on how you want to do it, I mean, you could stay a little closer to the road. You'll have setbacks off any roadways here at the tracks at White River. But as we look at this, you could get quite a ways off the roadway and still have some nice level area. Or alternately, if you wanted to do something, I mean, we've got people who want a property with the slopes simply because they want to do some kind of walkout basement on their cabin or an overhanging porch. Those are really cool. You also have the option of doing a south-facing slope or the level area, or a north-facing slope, I guess, on the property, which is pretty neat as well. So yeah, it lays nicely. You've got a lot of usable area. The wildlife out here are phenomenal. When the guys first set this project up and they were kind of going through and cleaning up the road system, because all the roads were in place, they just had grown up quite a bit. This was used sporadically as a deer hunting property, we've been told. It wasn't even hunted every year. And the deer are just fantastic out here. I mean, we got so many photos on the deer cams of deer and turkeys as well, like huge turkeys. We've put a couple photos in the listing, but mostly we just didn't. We left them on the card in the camera. There are so many photos, and that's not even mentioning that possibly our favorite thing about these tracts and this tract is the proximity to the White River. It's right there. I mean, this is not a small creek. This is the White River. This is the biggest river in the area, in the majority of northern Arkansas. I mean, it's a big river. It's a big deal to be that close to the White River, and it's a big deal to have access right to the river itself, that close to your property. And that's what we were talking about earlier here. Property's there, the river's there, with your access point just right there, which is phenomenal. So that's pretty exciting. But looks like we've already gone over 20 minutes. I feel like we could just keep talking about this property for quite some time, but we'll go ahead and kind of wind this down here. But Tract 11 looks gorgeous, very private, heavily wooded. Check out the drone video, check out the ground video. We'll have some different maps and pictures and whatnot on the listing page. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to give us a call in the office Monday through Friday, or you can reach us by email just about any time. So you can go that route as well, and we'll have all that contact info obviously on our website, or if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, you can just check the video description box, and we'll have all our info there. So yeah, fantastic. Complete owner financing on anything we sell through our website, and this property is no exception. We've got some great financing terms on this. Zero credit checks, minimal down payments, all that good stuff. So yeah, get a hold of us if you have any questions on this property, and we'd love to chat about it. That's Tract 11 at the Tracts at White River. A stone's throw from the White River. You'd have to be a pretty good stone thrower, I guess, because that's several hundred feet, but extremely close to the White River in Boone County, Arkansas. Forgot how to turn this off. Let's see. There it is. If you have any questions, just let us know.